So I was having a conversation with somebody in the comment section of one of my old prepper videos, and it was a rather heated conversation. It was a dude who obviously had his panties in a bunch about a bunch of different stuff, and had something against preppers, people that thought it was necessary to prep, and I don't know, people that own guns and all kinds of other stuff. I don't know. It got to the point where all he was doing was just basically throwing insults, so I dumped the whole comment thread. I just erased it and blocked him because he was obviously crazy. But some stuff had come up, and it's things that I probably talked about before on some of the podcasts and stuff, but I've never talked about it in a video. And so I wanted to tell you guys kind of my quote-unquote prepper story, how I became a prepper, even though I've many times said I hate the word prepper, but I guess it is an accurate description, right? But for those of you out there who are preppers or thinking about becoming preppers, I'd love to start off a kind of a chain story kind of thing, make a video, and you can't do video responses on YouTube anymore, which sucks, and I hate it, but, make a video, and tell me your prepper story. Why did you decide to start preparing, or if you're not doing it now, maybe you're thinking about doing it, why? What happened in your life? What inspired you to do that? I'd love to hear what you guys think. Now, as far as I go, the prepper thing, to me, I remember growing up and being prepared for bad stuff just seemed normal because of my grandmother. She was born into the Depression, and then, of course, immediately into World War II as she was growing up. So it was rough for her. So after all was said and done, she got married, had kids, that kind of thing, and then ended up getting divorced. And she, always kind of had this mentality of being prepared. In the 70s, she got into the survivalist movement, where she was buying cans of, powdered milk and that kind of stuff, and would keep stuff in her closet, and she had all the home gardening magazines and the survivalist magazines, and that she would keep and was subscribed to, and she was just always of the mind that you should always be prepared. So that's kind of what I grew up with between her, and then she passed some of that on to my mom, and so even though there was not a word for it, even though at the time, growing up, I was a kid, and then I was a teenager, and then it didn't really click with me until I was probably in my 30s, but when it did click, it just felt natural, felt normal. It was like, oh, well, yeah, that's what people do. That's what adults do. They prepare for the bad times, because something can always happen, right? Whether it's a hurricane or a tornado or an earthquake or a mudslide or a fire or a flood, or you lose your job, or, I don't know, maybe Mad Max does actually come true. I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe it's truly the end of the world as we know it scenario. I don't know. But regardless, it just made sense to me. And then sometime around, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, right around that time, probably around 2010, it would have been after Obama got elected in 2008, probably around the time I started doing YouTube videos, this nice little word started popping up all online, and in these videos that I would watch and some of the forums I would go to, and this word was called prepper. And it started describing all these things that were things that I was doing, and things that I wanted to do based on, how I grew up and my family and that kind of thing. And so it just kind of fit. And like I said, I've never liked the word prepper because, I don't know, it should just be a person, right? We should, as human beings, just be inclined to prepare. It's what we did for thousands of years until modern convenience and modern society reached a level where we, at least in first and second world countries, just feel like we don't really need to prepare anymore. We don't bother with learning how to do simple things like grow your own food and know how to, for the most part, skin an animal to cook it, pluck a chicken, simple things like that everybody used to have to know to survive. So yeah, there was this word and there was this movement, and all of a sudden it was a thing, and I feel like some of it was remnants of the Y2K movement. I knew a lot of people who had prepared for Y2K, and then after it was said and done, they were like, oh. And then they have all this gear, and they have all this stuff, and they've learned all these things, and they've got the seed banks and everything else, and then, you know, flash forward another decade, all of a sudden, people started getting worried because Obama was president and everything else, and, well, now we're preppers. And that's kind of how it goes for me. That's my prepper story. You know, I kind of always was a prepper, more or less, you know. At least I was inclined to be that way. You know, it was a part of my upbringing and my family, at the very least, anyway. So that's pretty much it, man. And then I ended up on YouTube and started doing videos about it. There you go. So I'd love to hear you guys' prepper story. Make a video, just a quick little video. Tell me how you got into prepping, or why you're thinking of getting into prepping. I'd love to hear it. So that's it, guys. Appreciate you listening and tuning in, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.